Daniel, they're back.
Oh, they're back?
They listened to one of our episodes and then came back for another one.
Oh my goodness gracious, they are my favorite people on the universe.
Honestly, I'm shocked because just a couple days ago, I got the first written review of Hubworld. Not an iTunes review. This was actually an in-person review from a listener named My Mother.
Oh!
If it's okay with you, I would actually like to read this review verbatim to you on air.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so this is an actual quote, and I'm kind of imagining that this is like a box quote on the Hubworld video game box. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is what they had to say. I listened for about 5 minutes, then thought, they had this conversation for a whole hour?
Thanks, My Mother.
You heard it here first, folks.
Oh my goodness, we
The
did have that
verdict is in.
conversation.
But we are here despite it all. I mean, you remember when we sat down a couple weeks ago and wrote out a list of goals for this podcast, and literally the only thing on the list was, number 1, make at least 2 episodes?
Yeah, so check, done.
We did it.
We did it.
Actually, I don't know. There's still time. Something horrible could happen during this podcast, and it might never air.
Okay, I guess it didn't happen. We're still good. Hey, welcome back to Hubworld, though. I'm your host, Daniel Elliott.
And I'm your other host, Carter Harrell. If you're listening to this, that means we've officially made it to 2 episodes.
Oh, this is so good.
In which case, welcome back to Hubworld, a podcast about video games, pop culture, and the pain of living in a world where other human beings have seen The Last Jedi and we haven't.
Oh, it hurts so bad. It's so bad.
It's so bad. You know, I thought not seeing the movie was bad enough, but then when other people see it and I don't.
Yeah, it's horrible. Like, I mean, I understand that, like, Ryan Johnson has seen it because he made it. And I know that there are some other people who have seen it, like Daisy Ridley and John Boyega, because they were inside of it for a long time.
They lived the Star Wars.
They have been in a Star War multiple times now. So I know that they have seen it, and that is, like, that on a certain level is okay to me. But now there are other, like, regular plebeian humans that have seen it, and they're trying to talk about it on the internet, and I'm trying to do my entire best to just shut my eyes and close my ears in every way possible.
So instead of just not using the internet, you're going on the internet while closing your eyes and shutting your ears?
It's something that I've been practicing for a long time. Hey, we're going to have a really good episode. Do you want to know what's on it?
Oh, I can't wait.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about PSX, the PlayStation experience. The experience of PlayStation that happened this past weekend.
Oh, is that what that means?
I think that's what that stands for.
All right.
And then we're also going to talk about more about Star Wars and getting ready for that. Because at the time of this recording, we still, in fact, have not seen it. By the time that this recording comes out, however, we will have seen it twice.
Oh, back to back, baby.
Back to back, baby. So that will change. But we will talk a little bit about that going into this incredible week of our human history. But first, Carter, we are going to play a game called 2 Lies and a Truth.
Ooh, yeah. I love that.
Do you want to explain a little bit about what this is?
Well, I would love to. It's a Hubworld exclusive game.
Exclusive.
Each of us will describe 3 outrageous, obscure video games, but the catch is that only one of those games actually exists, while the other 2 were made up by us, and the other person has to guess which is the real game.
Yep, so we're going to do a good job of being game investigative detectives in this
That's
moment.
right. And I do want to reiterate, we have not read each other's games beforehand.
Not at all. Have not discussed this.
This is a real guessing game.
Yeah. Well, do you want... Let me guess first. I'm ready.
You want to guess first?
Prepping. Yeah.
All right, Daniel. So I've got 3 games.
All right.
I'm putting on my best poker face right now, and I'm going to read them off to you, okay?
Okay, I'm just going to stare at the wall.
Okay,
prepare.
good. Game number 1 is entitled Karate Breakout, a side-scrolling action game on the NES where you play as the instructor of a children's karate class. When your students unexpectedly band together and turn on you, the player is tasked with fighting through waves of children in an attempt to escape the dojo.
I can't express to you how bad I want this to be the real one.
Well, you never know, do you?
I really don't know. But okay, so that's Karate Breakout for the NES?
That's Karate Breakout for the NES.
Okay, awesome.
Game number 2 is entitled Golf Party. Now that is 3 words. Golf Party. Okay? That is in case you're wondering, yes, that is a triple pun. Okay? Okay? All right. An N64 golf game where you play as the golf ball.
Oh.
You control spin, rolling acceleration, and deceleration.
With those great analog controls, I'm sure.
As the game progresses, the golfers get worse as you have to work harder to correct their increasingly misplaced shots.
Oh, man.
All right.
That sounds like it was definitely a classic, whether real or not at this point.
Well, that's Golf Party. Okay. And you can't call it Golf Party. It's called Golf Party.
Yeah. You gotta hit those hard.
Game number 3, the last of our 3 games, is entitled Sneak King, a licensed Burger King stealth game for PS2 and Xbox, where you play as the Burger King mascot, sneaking around different levels to deliver food to unsuspecting hungry NPCs.
Sneak King?
Sneak King.
Okay, can I guess?
So our 3 games, Karate Breakout,
Yes.
Golf Party, and Sneak King.
Okay, I think I know this one. I think I know it. I think Sneak King is the real one.
You are absolutely right, Daniel. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, I remember that thing. Was that a game that was sold in stores, or was that like here's this thing, you got your chicken fries, also now you have Sneak King, this Burger King stealth action game?
You know, what I do know about it is that it was $3.99.
Okay.
So I'm going to assume that it was not sold in stores.
Okay, yeah, that sounds
And upon
absolutely
reading the
correct.
Wikipedia article, the Burger King sold the game with the purchase of value meals.
Oh, yeah. So you really could literally get your chicken fries and then get a Burger King stealth action game.
That's absolutely right, Daniel.
Oh, my goodness. Do you know when this came out?
This came out in 2006, so not that long ago. Daniel, I would like for you to start off by going to Google and doing an image search for the game cover of Sneak King. Or you can look it up on Wikipedia, and the main picture will be of this game.
Okay, so Sneak King, Burger King in the Google search bar. This was like, I forgot totally that Burger King did that really horrifically crazy King version for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So for those of you listening at home, the Sneak King box art is like just a road in the middle of nowhere with trees on either side. The stylized font Sneak King in yellow towards the top. And then it is a shadow of the Burger King. Again, that like grotesque, nasty looking Burger King that they had for a while. If you'd imagine him trying to do the Thriller dance where you like go left and right, it's like he's in one of the side motions of the Thriller dance.
I want to emphasize, if you're listening to this, please look this up on your own time, because it's one of the creepiest things I've ever seen.
Yeah. Oh.
He's doing like the old school like robber tiptoe with like the T-Rex arms and like the tickly fingers.
Yes.
And okay, here's what I would also like to do. I'd like to read an excerpt from the Wikipedia page.
Please
if that's okay
do.
with you. An NPC with a burger icon over their head is able to be given food, but they will lose their appetite if they spot the player. Yeah, no freaking kidding. I think I would lose my appetite too if I turned around and like, saw the Burger King
that had snuck up to you.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, this is such a great game. How was this not in Game of the Year considerations for 2006? I don't get it. Because like the idea that people think, oh, I'm hungry, and then I'm thinking burger, and then it's your job to be like, here's a burger.
That's exactly the sound that the Burger King makes.
Yeah, that's the only noise I think that comes out of that. And like no mouth movement, no change of the face. Nope. It's just that
Hey, here's a burger.
Just like kind of slurping out slowly out of some unknown sound hole.
I would also like to point out that it says points are awarded based on how hungry a character is, the player's stealth and proximity to the NPC, and style points on delivery.
So wait a minute, how are you supposed to be sneaky and stylish? That's a new one.
Well, can I tell you the answer to that question, Daniel?
Yes, please.
I'm looking at a picture on Google Images, and I kid you not, it is a picture of an unsuspecting NPC walking through a yard, and the Burger King is inside a trash can. About to, so we're talking like Metal Gear Solid right now, out of the trash can, and I'm assuming non-consensually feed this NPC a cheeseburger.
So I'm looking up some screenshots of this now as well, and for some reason in my mind, I did not picture this as a 3-dimensional game. For some reason, I thought this was like a 2D side-scrolling kind of thing. Oh no, this is so much better than that. There is like rendered worlds.
The best part is it kind of looks better than you would expect it to.
It absolutely does.
All right, well, we can't talk about this forever as much as I would love to make a podcast.
I was going to say, yeah, we
just look out for our sequel podcast, The Sneak Kings.
Yeah. Each episode, we just play this over and then talk about it and continue on into infinity and the rest of time.
That's right, Daniel.
Oh.
But moving on, unfortunately, well, no, not unfortunately, because I'm very excited to hear your 3 games.
Okay, so here are my 3 games, okay? And I'm going to tell you that they are all from the Genesis SNES arena. Okay.
All right.
All right, so the first one, Blast! Nexus Engage, a sci-fi side-scrolling shooter where you are fighting against a swarm of aliens, but also against time as you are racing through an exploding space station. This was on the Sega Genesis system.
Dang, that sounds intense.
Yeah. The second one is called Tongue of the Fat Man. It is a surrealist sci-fi fighting game for the Sega Genesis where you choose from 10 different alien races and ultimately try to bring down a very large man who attacks with his tongue.
Wow, okay. I was going to say, when he was talking about the races, I was like, are you sure this is not Skyrim?
So, yeah, imagine Mortal Kombat plus Skyrim plus Kablam from Nickelodeon. And that's what this game is.
Plus lick a tongue. Got it.
Yes, exactly. All right, and the last one is Rocket Boy Adventures. This is a platformer for the SNES where you play as a boy who has discovered a rocket pack during an alien invasion and uses it to fight back against the hordes to save the world.
Okay. Give me your 3 titles one more time.
Okay, so that is Blast! Nexus Engage.
Got it.
Tongue of the Fat Man. Rocket Boy Adventures.
Okay, because I want to live in a world where this game exists, I'm going to choose Tongue of the Fat Man.
That is absolutely right. That is the real game.
Is it really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I was like half expecting that to just be a wild left field guess.
Yeah, that is absolutely the real game.
Are you serious?
Definitely.
Okay, hold on. Just shut up. I'm going to Google right now.
I was going to say, go to google.com /Tongue of the Fat Man. Actually, again, still don't do that, but just go use Google, the tool that looks through the internet, and search Tongue of the Fat Man.
I feel so violated. Oh my gosh.
Have you found it?
I found something, man.
Oh boy.
Okay, is this picture the cover is my first question.
The cover is the one with the chin that says Tongue of the Fat Man?
Is it the one where there are eyeballs in his nostrils?
Yes. I'm pretty sure that's the title, or that's the cover art. That's been pretty consistent with everything I've seen.
This is a real game.
That's a real game by Activision. Developed by Activision. So that's back when Activision did that. I forgot that they developed games way back in the day.
Well, man, I'm hoping for a remaster.
Oh my goodness, yes. That's what we need to start. We need to get Sean Layden a T-shirt of Tongue of the Fat Man so he can start wearing it around.
I'm looking at a picture where his torso is like a face.
Yeah, there's also that.
And there's a tongue coming out of his stomach face?
So here's the overview thanks to ian.m.wikipedia.org. The game gives the player 10 races to choose from. Each race has their own special moves. The original version of the game starts with the player having 3 species to choose from, unlocking new characters by defeating them in battle. Do you want to hear what some of these races include?
I have never wanted anything more.
Okay. Humanoid, Cyberjoid, Cryoplasts, Amazoid, Bi-Husker, Razor, R-A-Y-Z-O-R, Mammoth, not Mammoth, Mammoth, Puftian, Colonoid, and lastly, the Celluloid.
A celluloid?
Yeah, that's an alien race in this game.
Oh my gosh.
So the titular fat man, his name is called Mongu the Fat. And his special move is none other than the tongue lash, where his belly opens and sprawls out a tongue which jabs the enemy.
Why would Okay, I was about to say why would anyone want to play this, but then I realized I want nothing more than to stop this podcast right now and go buy Genesis.
Yeah.
I have to say, Daniel, if you were playing this game, what race would you choose? Because I'm definitely going with Mammoth.
Oh, I'm 100% going with Razor. It can't just be Razor, it has to be Razor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is real.
It's a real game that exists and existed. I think it's been on a lot of, let's see, the reception. Tongue of the Fat Man received negative response from reviewers. Both Game Revolution and CNET ranked it in their list of worst video game names ever, whilst Mondu, the game's antagonist, was ranked among UGO's list of the unsexiest sexy video game characters, coming in at number 3.
Oh man, that had so much promise, but it just couldn't deliver.
Nope.
Well, if any of you are still listening to this podcast instead of playing one of these 2 games, thank you for joining us for this edition of 2 Lies and a Truth.
Yeah, that was really good. I'm glad that it was really fun preparing for this because I just got to dive deep into some of just the weirdest games.
Daniel, we had post-game awards last week. We had yet another video game conference. Would you like to tell us what that might be?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So this, I guess actually the day after the Game Awards, there was the PlayStation Experience,
That's
aka
right.
PSX. I don't think it was actually called, like, I think it's not Experience, but that's...
No, actually, I think the official title is PlayStation Experience.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Because there's no E. That's why you get that acronym.
Right. It's the, different dialects in the way that you approach the alphabet and stuff. Yeah.
This was a kind of a weird conference in that it's less of like one presentation and it's more of like a fan-focused weekend kind of thing with like live player booths and demos and stuff like that.
Yeah. It was even more different this year than it has been in the past because typically they have started with this huge hour-long
like
spectacle presentation that was like really very similar to what they would do at E3 or something like that, where they show a lot of game trailers and have a lot of hype and a lot of energy back to back. And usually Gio Corsi would come out with like 14 Vitas taped to his shirt and be like, hey, the Vita's alive and here's all these different Vita games coming out.
R.I.P.
But it was not at all that way this year.
Sure. The highlight of the show for me definitely was getting a lot of new information about Media Molecule's new game Dreams.
Yes.
Which I am so excited about. If you don't know about Dreams, there's a game that came out a little while ago called Little Big Planet, which was kind of a game creation kind of experiment where there was a single player campaign, like a platform based game, but then you could go into a level creator and make your own levels, even though it was pretty limited for the time. And Dreams is now kind of the natural evolution of that game, and it looks really awesome. I'm really loving what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, so we talked just a little bit about this, but tell me a little bit more about like your experience playing Little Big Planet and kind of how that is informing your excitement for Dreams.
Oh, absolutely. So Little Big Planet, the first one came out in 2008, I think. And so I was like, that was kind of when I was first seriously getting into gaming. I mean, I had a GameCube, and then right as I'd gotten the PS3, this game came out pretty early on in that life cycle. And it was a pretty formative game in terms of like a spot where I started feeling like, oh, this is actually like an art form, not just something that I'm doing in my spare time. This is actually something really like that has a lot of depth to it. And I remember hours and hours making like a giant Bowser robot where you can like make the arms move with pistons and all this stuff. And it was super cool and just consuming for me. And video games kind of turned into like a creative outlet, which was so cool. And I remember that being a pretty important game to like really suck me in to gaming more seriously. And Dreams is just, I love how, first of all, it's got this cool like impressionist painting kind of style that they're obviously going for like this dream like art style, and it definitely lends more like artistic depth and lays the groundwork for much more like emotional storytelling in like your creation, which seems really, really cool to me.
Yeah.
They had all of these, they were showing off all of these amazing features at PSX where, like, for example, you can use the DualShock or the Move controllers to essentially like puppeteer a character. So you're like using them as like a mocap thing where you press record and you like animate the character with your controller. Then once you stop recording, you go over it again and you can animate the arms and you can animate other characters like all together in a scene. And I was watching them build a level on stage, and like one guy put down this floating platform and he pressed record and he just moved his controller left to right to essentially draw a path for the platform. And then he stopped recording and then it was just on a loop moving left to right.
Yeah, it is really something what they seem to have made here. They've been teasing this game now for at least a couple years, I think.
Many years ago. They've been promising a beta for a long time that was supposed to come out in like 2016, and now it's coming out in 2018.
Yeah.
So it's been in the works for a long time.
Yeah, and it just, it looks kind of, it's always been this kind of enigmatic, like, what is this thing? It looks really interesting, but so there's this article on Kotaku that Keza McDonald wrote, and her headline, I think, is like pretty telling for this game. It says Dreams for PS4 is hard to explain, but it looks brilliant. And that's kind of what has been so interesting to me and has drawn me in, is that it's like, there's an element of mystery of like, what is this thing?
Yeah, definitely.
What is this going to be? But I'm also just very intrigued by it. But I'm like you, this was one of the biggest things that I was looking forward to coming into PSX, is knowing that they were saying they were going to really be having a larger focus on Dreams. And it really does look like they have essentially gamified game creation,
exactly,
in a way that Little Big Planet was kind of touching at and getting to around the edges.
Yeah, definitely.
But this is like putting a game creation engine like Unity or like the Unreal Engine or something, and then saying, hey, you don't have to know how to type 3 million lines of code. All you have to know how to do is to move a controller back and forth.
One thing that I loved that the devs said is they said this is a game just like Lego is a type of play.
Yes.
They even said that you can do like voice acting for cutscenes. You can import audio or you can record with your headset.
Yeah.
You can, one of the really cool things is that, so they said that for players who are like might be put off by the sheer amount of freedom from the game, what you can do is, first of all, the game has these half-finished dreams that kind of act as tutorials, which you can get a starting point and then work off of that. So Media Molecule's kind of mantra is play, create, share.
Yes.
And Little Big Planet had kind of a more shallow version of that where, as far as I remember, you just went onto like a hub and you could download other people's levels and play them, which was really cool. And so in this kind of thing, they've taken that to the next level to where, well, first of all, you can model your own assets for the game. Like you can take the Move controllers and model like a whole character or a tree or anything just in 3D, which is really insane. And they've said for those who are not looking to create their own assets, you can import individual objects from other people's levels and put them in your level.
And like customize them and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they compared it to like a Pinterest board, to where not only can you go on and search like, okay, horror levels or action levels or whatever, you can search tree and then it will pull up hundreds of people's trees that they've made and you can pick any of them and put them in your level.
Oh, that's so cool. It's so, yeah, to bring it back to that original comparison, it's like saying, hey, here's the biggest Lego store in the world. You can have any Lego that you want for free and use anything that you want. Also, you can create your own Lego pieces if you want. It is just so cool. It's so ambitious. And it seems like they really nailed it down in a way that is going to be accessible.
Absolutely.
Because that's the thing, right? Is that they could have these really cool creation suite. And to be honest, like I didn't really mess with it in Little Big Planet because it was to me, it was a little too over my head. But
it was a little overwhelming.
This seems like it's going to be even more accessible because literally, like you said, can you move a controller? Can you draw a line?
Yeah.
Cool. You can make a bridge move. Can you doodle even a little bit? Like, sure. And like, that's one of these things that, again, Keza said in this article, she said, the big idea behind Dreams is to democratize digital creativity to allow you or your 8-year-old to experiment with game creation as easily as a professional. The results will vary massively, of course, but Dreams is designed such that pretty much anything you make will look all right and be functional, even if it's a bit rubbish. You can spend a half hour doodling around or spend a few weeks with some friends putting together something really complex. Couch co-op and online co-op will let teams of people come together to make something. Imagine teaming up with an artist or a musician from the other end of the world to make a fantasy adventure. Like that paragraph right there was. Have you ever seen The Mask by Jim Carrey?
Many times.
Jim Carrey, with Jim Carrey. So there's a point where he has this dog face and his mouth goes and like his tongue rolls out. Like when I read that paragraph, because I read this before I saw any of the video from it. That's actually what happened to my face. That just is such a cool idea, that it's going to be this thing that people who are ultimately the greatest creators in the world can get in here and do something amazing, and you can interact and engage with what they've made. Also, like if you are the world's worst doodler, but you can draw at all, that's still going to be a functional thing that can work in this game.
Or if you wanted, you can just pull assets from other people's games and just assemble them into a level.
Ugh.
And what's so two other like of the sharing aspects that were so cool to me are, first of all, they've described this system that they have in place where in that social media hub, you develop what they call a persona. And so somebody can be known as somebody who makes really great horror games, or somebody can be known as somebody who makes music in the game, which, by the way, they have like a fully fleshed out garage band in the game that you can use to make music.
That's crazy.
And your persona can even be that you have really great taste in levels so that people follow you and they go to your profile to see all of the best levels. And like, it's kind of like a curator. And so you get this reputation of like what you're good at finding. And that is such a cool kind of aspect to that definitely was not in Little Big Planet. That was super cool.
Not at all. Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I cannot believe that they somehow did this, but so they have a single player campaign, they call it, that's like 3 different stories that are kind of interwoven into a overarching narrative. And so what they said is they have a feature on the social side called surfing, where you can click surf and it shuffles through like popular levels. It picks 3 random worlds or games that people have created. It chops them up and like scrambles them into like one full game experience that you can play through, to where you'll play like a scene from one game, then it'll switch to a scene from the other game, and then it'll scramble them until it makes like a full 3-part game.
Oh my gosh. I did not see that at all. That is like...
Literally. Anyways, all I know is that the first level, I already have the idea for the first level I want to make. Would you like to hear it?
I absolutely would.
Okay. So you go inside Norman Reedus's body.
Oh, yeah.
And the final boss is a baby that gives you the thumbs up.
Hey, you know what else? You know what the first level that I'm going to make?
What's that?
This is going to be a strategy tactics game called Vieri Emblem, where you go around.
Man, we can actually make our games.
All of the games that we mentioned in episode 1 are going to be made in Dreams. So your dreams will come true. When you were listening to the last episode, and you were like, "Oh man, I actually kind of would play Just Pants, honestly. Yeah, guess what? That actually might be real easy to make in Dreams.
Yeah, it really would be.
Yeah. So, but real quick before we go into the other games, did they announce VR support for Dreams? I was trying to look for that.
Thank you for mentioning that. So they basically, what they said about VR was that they said not on day 1, but we'll patch it in on day 2. And I don't think they meant literally day 2. I think they just meant that they have developed that and they will be adding that for sure.
Okay.
They did confirm that. And so that's going to be really cool, especially I feel like for some of the modeling stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking
they
for
have
creation to be inside the space that you're creating would be really, really cool and really helpful.
Absolutely. Anyways, they've said the beta's coming in 2018. I really want this game to come out because it's been a long time coming, but we'll see.
Yeah, it does sound truly like the game that our dreams are made of.
Amen. Anyways, we could talk about Dreams for a long, long time, but there were a few other announcements that we got from PSX. We got some cool VR. They announced a Last Guardian VR experience, which is just like, I think, a 10 or 20 minute kind of thing where you just interact with Trico or whatever that big hyena bird's name is.
Yeah.
Which sounds pretty cool. They announced Wipeout in VR, which sounds pretty awesome.
Isn't that Wipeout collection? I think that's out now. Like what you
is
can
it really?
You can get that game now. Actually, I think it's on sale right now. I think it's like 50% off or something for the holiday
we might
sale.
just have to do that.
At the time of this recording, it is currently on sale.
Dang.
But they're adding VR support to that.
Yeah, I can't wait to throw up all over my living room.
Yeah.
2 other small titles that they announced were one called Knockout League, where it's like a boxing game that actually looks kind of cool.
Huh.
And then another game called Jupiter and Mars, which is a VR dolphin simulator.
That's just not at all what I thought Jupiter and Mars was going to be after I saw the headline Jupiter and Mars. And then I heard it's a game about dolphins.
Yep, you are a dolphin and you swim through the ocean.
Yeah, that honestly sounds like a game that we made up out of nothing.
Yeah, it actually does. Yeah. Anyways, we've got a lot to look forward to from PSX. So come on, 2018.
Absolutely. And not that this is going to be in 2018. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this just because I don't want everyone to think that I worship at the altar of Hideo Kojima, but Marty Sleva from IGN, he caught up with Hideo Kojima, I think after the Game Awards.
Yeah.
To get a little bit more detail about Death Stranding. And when I say a little bit more detail about Death Stranding, it is like the first and only details we have about Death Stranding. So again, for you listeners at home, really, this is going to make way more sense if you watch all 3 of the trailers, and especially the one that just came out for Game Awards.
Yes.
But just he talked about a couple of gameplay aspects that he is wanting to have as part of this game's philosophy. And one is that kind of like a Souls game, like when you die, it's not game over.
Yeah.
You go to this purgatory world that was shown in the most recent trailer, and you kind of move around and you can gather things, and then you go back into your body. And once you are reawoken, the world has continued past where you died. And so it's a little bit soulsy in that way that the world, it doesn't revert back to this state of before you died, like 99% of video games. The world keeps moving on. I thought his reasoning for this was pretty interesting. He was just saying how that whole idea of dying and going back to the world before you died was initially a way to keep making you put coins in arcade machines, and how he's like, this is such an old concept, like we should be well beyond that at this point. And so I thought that was pretty interesting that was kind of his rationale for that. But then the other thing that he talked about that they showed in this most recent trailer is what he's calling timefall, where how it's like there's rainfall, but instead of water falling from the sky, it's time. And so these things that are hit by this time fall, like time moves completely differently. And so at the beginning of the trailer, you're seeing these plants that are rapidly growing and then dying because they're all moving. And then there's a character whose helmet like gets knocked off, and he's this younger guy. And then in 5 seconds, he ages to be really old. And so that's just going to be
Benjamin Button, the video game.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's just going to be part of this game, but that Norman Reedus' character, who I think they're calling Sam, is immune to that for some reason.
Huh. That's a really interesting premise, at least.
Yeah. So it probably won't come out until at least late 2019, if not 2020.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll have one order of Hideo Kojima's brain, please. Just
Yeah.
put that into my brain.
You know what, Daniel? I would have to say I could use some time fall right now to make this week go by faster.
Oh, you could not be more correct in that statement.
If only. Why might that be?
Well, tomorrow's Wednesday, and then that means there's only 11 days till Christmas Eve.
Yes, finally.
No. Star Wars:
We're
The
getting
Last
Christmas
Jedi
early.
comes to us in our hearts and souls and minds on Thursday. We're recording this on a Tuesday. We are now like within 2-ish days of being inside of a theater and inside the Star Wars.
Wow. I cannot believe it. I know many of you have been feeling the same angst that we have been having, preparing for the day that we finally get to go back to that galaxy far, far away. I know I have been rewatching all the movies. I'm finishing up. Actually, no, I'm halfway through Empire Strikes Back, and hopefully I'll make it in time.
Yeah. So again, we're recording this before Star Wars: The Last Jedi comes out. By the time that this podcast hits your ear balls, the Last Jedi will be out, but you may still not have seen it and may not be going to see it for another day or two. So I think we will go ahead. We're going to have a larger discussion about our Hubworld 10 Commandments of Star Wars. But before we do that, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, I do think it'd be interesting to talk about ways that you can prep yourself for getting ready to see The Last Jedi, or if you've seen it and you're like, man, just please put more Star Wars into my stomach so I can digest on it for a while. Some things you can do. So I real quick, I want to start with, I just picked up this book called From a Certain Point of View. This was done in commemoration of this year being the 40th anniversary of Star Wars: A New Hope and
That's
Star Wars as a franchise, which is crazy. But what it is the retelling of Star Wars: A New Hope, but seen through the eyes of peripheral characters.
That's so cool.
It makes this movie that has been around for 40 years, that I've seen hundreds and hundreds of times, that you've seen hundreds and hundreds of times, and it makes it fresh, like really so fresh. Cool. And so I really highly recommend it. I haven't finished it yet, but I mean, we're talking about seeing this through the eyes of the commanding officer on the Tantive 4 that gets choked by Darth Vader when he's trying to figure out like where is the diplomat on the ship.
Yeah.
It is through the eyes of the data workers that crunch the numbers and file paperwork to figure out why there was an escape pod that got launched.
Dang, that's awesome.
Which is really funny and really good. It's through one of the Jawas that comes into contact with R2 and C-3PO. It is so cool, and I think absolutely one of the best ways to get your mind and spirit ready for Star Wars if you haven't seen it like us at this time, or just if you want to dive deep more into Star Wars and have more of that soak in. It's a great thing to do.
That's so cool. I actually wrote a bit of fan fiction on Star Wars that is from the perspective of the Jawas. I would actually like to play a sample of it right now. Would you like to hear it?
Yep, please do.
This is straight from the audiobook, okay?
Okay.
Chapter 1. That's actually the whole book.
Yeah, that was very profound.
It was more of a pamphlet.
I felt like I was there. That was extremely good world building.
Thank you.
The characterization was deep. Well done. 5 stars.
Yeah, but how else are you preparing for Star Wars, Daniel?
So the other thing that I want to bring to this table, obviously, I didn't want to mention watching the movies before because I think that's obvious, especially, like watch The Force Awakens before watching the sequel.
Yeah,
to it,
definitely.
Right? Like that's an obvious thing. But I wanted to touch on another thing that maybe seems obvious, but really isn't. And that is listening to the Force Awakens soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
So the maestro John Williams came back to score The Force Awakens after scoring the first 6 movies. And I had a little bit of trepidation because, you know, those original movies, well, by original, I mean all 6 of them.
Right.
That's such good music. And
yep.
So how does somebody like John Williams go back to Star Wars and be creative again and be fresh and new in a way that it can stand with those old scores? But I think he nails it, and I want to highlight 2 tracks from it. Also,
great.
I do want to highlight Rey's theme in the March of the Resistance. As to just I think classic at this point.
Man, I listen to Rey's theme in the car all the time.
It's so good.
It is so good.
It's one of these where one really interesting thing that I want to touch on, and I heard this from the fantastic deep dive that David W. Collins did for Rebel Force Radio when they did some podcasts about Star Wars music.
Highly recommend.
Highly recommend that. And that is Rey's theme begins with a flute.
Yes.
The only other character theme that starts with a flute. Do you know who that is?
I'm thinking Leia.
It is absolutely Princess Leia. And so this gets my conspiracy brain. Again, this is us pre-Last Jedi.
This is where this is
we don't
going.
know. You know, I really did not and still do not want Rey to be a Skywalker lineage. Especially it would not be, I mean, if it's going to be, hello, my name is Kylo Ren, you are my sister.
Yes.
You know, I hope that at least it would be good if they do that.
Yeah.
But
too easy.
If that is the case, it would be pretty interesting that there's this musical link between the two.
That would be really interesting.
Just little clues that you can kind of think about and hear when you listen to his music. And other than it just being really good to listen to and good sounding music. March of the Resistance is just one of these themes that it gets my blood pumping. It gives me chill bumps. I remember when I watched it in the theater the first time when it starts just getting this momentous march. It's so good, and it is just this triumphant, powerful thing that says, hey, we're the Resistance, we're here to punch you in the face. And it's a really excellent way to get yourself hyped up for this new Star Wars movie.
We should add lyrics, and they should be, we're the Resistance, we're here to punch you in the face.
So here comes my elbow to your temple. There you go, down. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but it's these little things that you get from just listening to the soundtrack. Obviously, watching the movies are great, but just listening to the soundtrack and trying to understand the work that John Williams put in and the intentionality he put into this music, that I think is another really excellent way to get excited and to hype yourself up for Star Wars. So those are my 2 suggestions.
Absolutely.
So Carter, let's get down to the meat of the issue.
Let's do it.
Is that Star Wars is a very, I'll just say it, it's a very sacred thing.
Oh, it's a religious experience.
Right here. And so I think it needs to have some definitive 10 commandments, our 10 Star Wars commandments brought to you by Hubworld, the podcast. Yes.
That was my Gregorian chant to go along with every time we say 10 commandments.
Oh, really good. So 10 commandments? Thank you.
Wait, I'll put some reverb on it.
There we go. I think I just saw some like winged angelic creatures fly out of Skype.
That was Watto, actually.
Oh, yeah. Same difference. Yeah.
He was flying out going, you know your 10 commandments, huh?
Make us how you read up all of these, huh? Yeah. Okay. So I've got 5 commandments here. I think
why don't we go back
there.
and forth, little tete-a-tete.
Indeed. So is it okay if I go first? I have a
it's more than okay
for my number 1. So hold on to your horses, folks. This may be what the children in our society today on our internet like to call a hot take.
Ooh. Hold on to your tauntauns.
Actually,
that sounds a little risque.
Hold on to your tauntaun innards. Watch out for that smell. Okay, so here's my first Star Wars commandment. Thou shalt never speaketh disdain upon the prequels.
Woo! Starting off with a kicker.
Bringing the heat, baby.
With the most
heat.
controversial Star Wars topic.
Yeah, it is. All right. So here's the deal, right? Is that the popular opinion is to just trash the prequels. Just say, oh, the prequels are terrible. Jar Jar. I'm not trying to sub real life tweet anyone. This was something I literally heard a couple days ago, though. Episodes 4 through 6, the only Star Wars movies that matter. And you may be listening to this right now and saying, hey, guess what? That's what I believe. Listen, Daniel, what kind of junk are you talking to me right now? All right. Let me tell you why that isn't right. So here's the thing, right? Is that they are not perfect movies. They're
Correct.
not at all. They may not necessarily even be as good as episodes 4 through 6.
Right.
But or 7 and Rogue One at this
Right.
point. You got to start adding those.
Yeah.
There's a lot to think to criticize. I'll
Sure.
go down a list right now. So you've got Jar Jar Binks, who's a pretty problematic character for a number of reasons. Basically, the entirety of Anakin Skywalker in Attack of the Clones.
Correct.
Hayden Christensen was like, what is act? A lot of the writing in the prequels, including, hey, Carter, tell me, how do you feel about sand?
I don't like sand. It's rough, coarse.
I do not like
irritating,
sand.
gets
It
everywhere.
is rough. It is everywhere. Yeah, so there's some not great writing, obviously. And again, this may be even a lesser, but still slightly spicy hot take. Honestly, Natalie Portman's not that great in any of them.
Daniel,
She's really
you're
not.
breaking my heart.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she's not that good. She went on to be very great,
That's
obviously,
true.
but
That's true.
at that point, not so much.
Yeah.
And a lot of the CGI hasn't held up, right?
Yes.
That's obvious.
Yes.
So there's some things to criticize, but here's my whole point of this is that there is so much merit to each one of the prequels
Yes.
that just gets completely swept under the rug
Yes.
because, again, the popular opinion is just to trash the prequels and just say, oh, the prequels are bad. The prequels are bad. They're not good. They're not as good as the originals, and just leave it at that. There can't be anything good in them because they're bad.
Exactly.
And that's not good.
I feel like, okay, here's the analogy that I like to use. So a couple years back, George Lucas decided to take the original movies and kind of, he decided to fiddle with them with some special effects things that he decided to add. Now, if you will remember with me, in the beginning of the Mos Eisley scene in New Hope, where
Yes.
you're looking at this awesome, lively city, right? And then all of a sudden, a giant, awful PS2 graphics CGI alien camel dinosaur walks right in front of the camera, and I mean inches in front of the camera to where it covers the entire screen, right? But here's the thing. That looks pretty awful. It's a glaring issue. It happens for a few seconds, but it does not mean the scene is bad. It does not mean the movie is bad. And I feel like each prequel movie, actually 3, I really don't have that many gripes with, but especially episodes 1 and 2 each have their own CGI alien camel dinosaur, right?
Yeah.
I think especially the first one, it is some acting, writing, and a lot of the Trade Federation politics that I know a lot of people don't like. Episode 2, it's Anakin and his writing and that love story and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Those are both glaring issues, and they're not as great as the originals, and you notice them for a little bit, but they don't mean that the movie is bad, and they don't ruin the movie by any means, because Episode 1 has tons of amazing things. It has pod racing and Darth Maul, and Episode 2 has like this awesome side story of Obi-Wan figuring out what's going on. I don't know. I think it's those things are not enough to discount the movies, and I really hate when people say, "Oh, the prequels don't count."
Yeah. It's like,
and now people are saying that
it's
with
a
the Force
real
Awakens
fast way
too.
to make me just
Yeah.
lit up on the inside.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
all of this is happening to Force Awakens now that it's like for some reason cool to hate on it for some people, which we do not even need to go into that. That's if you think
No.
that's fine. I get it, but you're wrong and I hate you.
yeah, yeah, that's its own set of issues. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, episode 1, Jar Jar Binks does not discount the incredible world design of Naboo and like this new parts of Tatooine that we get to see. It does not discount the pod racing, which, along with being one of the best action set pieces and having some of the best aliens, I mean, Sebulba is incredible. It has some of the best sound design in all of Star Wars, which has great sound design. Yeah, exactly. But it's incredible. The Nimoidians, a lot of people don't like them, but hey, guess what? They sound awesome.
They sure do.
They are two of them. Like, that's great. It has Qui-Gon Jinn and Darth Maul, two of the best characters in all of Star Wars. It has and Watto, the holy trinity of new characters. Qui-Gon, Darth Maul, and Watto.
Right. Can't leave that one out.
And Duel of the Fates. I mean, just some of the best music, right? So that's just episode 1. Like you said, in Attack of the Clones, has that side scene of Obi-Wan trying to figure out what's going on, which is really cool.
And it has the ending scene of Jedi battle.
It has this entire pit thing where, like, for so long, all we've ever heard about is the Jedi were the defenders of the galaxy, but we really just see them sitting around, and then we don't get to see why they were what they were until Attack of the Clones, which is really great. We get to see Yoda go tit for tat with Christopher Lee's Count Dooku, and then say, all right, never mind, let me show you how to use a lightsaber. Like, that still gives me chills. Like, is such a good scene, right? So that's, I mean, a lot of great stuff in Attack of the Clones. And of course, again, Across the Stars, the love theme with Anakin and Padme is the best part about really Anakin and Padme.
Yeah.
And then, of course, again, like we've already mentioned, I think Revenge of the Sith is generally considered to be, in quote unquote, the best of the prequels anyway. Yeah, I mean, it's just, there's so much good there. I mean, to kind of close off my point, if we're going to be Star Wars fans and we're going to celebrate that Luke and his quest to ultimately always believe and then prove that there was still good in Darth Vader, we need to be like that with the prequels and say, actually, no, there's still good in them.
Amen.
And not be like Darth Vader and say, it's too late for me. So the lesson is in Star Wars itself, and I'm done. I'm done with it. I'm not going to talk about it anymore.
Okay. The second commandment of Star Wars that I have is, thou shalt not confuse space fantasy with science fiction.
I am so interested in this.
Now, we don't have to talk super long about this, but one of my other pet peeves with Star Wars is when people try to pick it apart in a scientific way, kind of like you would approach something like Star Trek, like a hardcore sci-fi series. And they're saying like, oh, this would never happen. This is unrealistic. Oh yeah, well, so is the Force. Okay.
Yeah.
This was never intended to be a scientific like thing. This was always like a space opera, very fantasy heavy thing. And that is what sets it apart a lot from something like Star Trek. And so I think you just have to put a lot of that aside to realize that you're in a fantasy world and that Star Wars isn't really sci-fi, it's space fantasy.
No. Yeah, that's a really interesting designation because it's generally not considered that. It's like, this is the sci-fi classic.
Right.
You know, this is that high adventure. It's not space fantasy, and I think that's a definite good designation for what this is. Because like, you know, if you're coming to it trying to pick it apart for like, well, you know, it would actually, to have a laser be able to keep its shape in that form, you would have to actually have a lot more power source going into the lightsaber build itself.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm sorry, no. Like, if that's like how you're coming into this, then there's other things you can do at the time.
All right, hit us with another one, Daniel.
Okay, this one is called "Thou Shalt Never Extendeth the Deal with Electronic Arts."
Ooh.
Yeah, so for those that do not know, Disney, who now owns Star Wars, signed a deal with Electronic Arts, a video game publishing company, to let them have the exclusive publishing rights to the Star Wars franchise. I'm not sure the details about this as far as like for how much money it was or for how long it is. But they announced it with 3 projects. They said that EA was going to be making a game, that Visceral Studios was going to be making a game, and that BioWare had a project. So here's what has come of that. So that was in 2013 they signed that deal. It is now almost 2018, practically 2018 at this point. Visceral no longer exists. They had this
Yep.
really incredible looking game that, for reasons I don't have time to get into, they decided wasn't going to be up to snuff, and so they shut it down. If BioWare's project was anything other than continuing to work on the Old Republic MMO, then they haven't talked about that at all.
Nope,
so
and it probably isn't.
It probably isn't. So there's one of those projects is dead. One of those projects is the same game they were already working on for a while, so it's not new. And then EA has given us 2 Battlefronts that have been criticized heavily for the way that they've handled the presentation of the game outside of the gameplay itself.
I feel like EA is like Palpatine staying in power too long.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's EA has been under fire for years and years and years and years for just not understanding how games work or what people want, and only caring about the dollar value. And that's fine. They're a huge corporation. That's like what they care about. That's not a surprise, but it's just Star Wars deserves better than that. Like, they deserve better than a publisher looking to see what is the precise amount of money that we can get out of this, instead of how can we make this incredible property that people love and cherish, and how can we focus on having the best experiences with this property.
It's a shame.
So hopefully they won't hopefully Disney will not extend the deal they have.
There's no way Bob Iger already got pretty pissed off about the EA stuff, so I doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah. So thou shalt never extendeth the deal with Electronic Arts.
That's a great commandment.
Yeah. What about yours?
All right. My next one is thou shalt introduceth newcomers to Star Wars in the order of release.
Aha. So this is as opposed to chronological order.
As opposed to chronological. And I mean, or as opposed to, what is the machete order?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's whatever. That's not real. I just feel really strongly that what gives the prequels a lot of their weight and their depth is knowing the story behind the original movies. And I felt the same. Like, imagine seeing Rogue One, not having seen New Hope and knowing the gravity of that situation.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is all just really important. I know there's a lot of orders. I particularly have invented something called the Carter order that I just made up. And that is this, okay? If you're watching Star Wars for the first time ever. 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, Rogue One, 4, 5, 6 again.
Haha.
And then Force Awakens.
Interesting.
So this way, you get the order of release. You also get to watch it chronologically, and you get to watch the originals twice.
There we go. It's satisfying everyone.
Yep, it hits all the bases.
Sometimes I wake up and I think maybe Rogue One and A New Hope should just be one long movie. And so you just watch it that way.
So, like I said earlier, I've been watching the movies in order chronologically. And we made sure, my wife and I, when we were watching, made sure that when we finished Rogue One, we would pop New Hope in immediately. And it was amazing. The last shot of Rogue One sees Leia's ship blast off into hyperspace, and then New Hope starts with that ship coming overhead. And it's so amazing. You're like, we just saw this. I know exactly what's going on. And it connects so well. And all the stuff with Galen Erso adds a ton of new weight to everything that's happening in New Hope. Anyways, I highly recommend doing so. Yeah.
So Rogue One to me, the like Rogue One and A New Hope to me is kind of like Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2. Like it's all the same movie.
Yeah.
Just cut in half. And so that's how I'm going to say my order now is Rogue One, A New Hope. Then
nice.
Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, then Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, then Force Awakens.
Love it.
The Last Jedi.
Love it. All right, hit us with the next commandment.
All right, this one is extremely important, of absolute important, you might say. Thou shalt not deal in absolutes, because only the Sith deal in absolutes. That's all. That's it.
That just stands on its own, huh?
Yep. That's it says everything it needs to say.
Wow, that's like golden rule material.
This is in fact the golden rule of
Star Wars.
Jedi, I think.
All right, well, that's a great standalone rule.
Yep.
My next commandment is thou shalt let go of the extended universe.
Oh.
Now, a lot of people were very upset when Disney slashed everything that happened in the extended universe and declared it as not canon. And I understand that if you were super invested in that then that might have been a tough call for you to hear. But the reality is it's a very convoluted world that it totally makes sense that they had to start fresh in order for the new series to kind of carry some weight with it.
It's really fun that we had 30 years for all of that to manifest itself. But hey, guess what? There's still going to be a steady stream of Star Wars.
That's right.
Into all all of our soul and bodies for the next forever.
Amen.
Would you like to know what my fourth commandment is?
I truly would.
Thou shalt never sleepeth upon the Ewoks.
No, we're not talking about literally sleeping on Ewoks.
No, definitely not. I think that would actually be a very good thing. I would imagine they would be a very cuddly, like body pillow type situation. But what I'm really talking about is a lot of the criticism against Return of the Jedi because it has Ewoks in it. Which, like, I don't think this is a very popular sentiment, but it's enough. I've heard it enough to, like, have some pushback against it. And there's two things here at play, I think. One is that I think a lot of people, kind of like what you were saying, where try to let logic get in the way and say, like, well, you know, the Empire wouldn't have lost to a bunch of weird small bear creatures.
Right.
You know, they had the better technology. And, you know, there's no way that a whole bunch of Star Troopers and AT-AT walkers would have lost to some bears. Yeah, sure. And David shouldn't have beaten Goliath. You know, the Cleveland Cavaliers shouldn't have come back from a 3-1 lead. You know, it's okay. So there's no room for underdog stories, right? And then at the same time, are Ewoks even really underdogs? I don't know, because
the
you're
Ewoks
fighting.
Were skilled guerrilla combatants that changed the tide of the rebellion.
Yes, exactly. You're fighting on their home turf. They have to be resourceful to make up for their lack of technology and their lack of size, and they had the element of surprise. Like,
Amen.
I don't even know if that's underdog material at that point.
I don't think so.
And, like, also they have Luke, Leia, and Han Solo on their side too. So, but the other part of this that kind of gets under my skin is I think that a lot of people really want Star Wars to be this, like, hyper masculine, rah thing. You know, they want it to be dark, gritty, action, lightsabers.
Yeah.
You know,
but I mean, the original Star Wars was a kids movie.
Yes, they were made for children.
That was absolutely the intent.
From the mouth of our Star Wars Lord and Savior George Lucas. Yeah, but there's some people that just really want it to be this thing, which, like, is traditionally very masculine, right?
Sure.
And so little bear creatures go against that idea. It's kind of the same thing with like Jar Jar Binks a little bit, like how, like, he's a kid's character, you know, we can't have that in our Star Wars. Like, and there's a lot more here that I could talk about, but I think that's just a manifestation of that that just kind of really gets under my skin.
Speaking of Jar Jar, Daniel, my next commandment is thou shalt keepeth in mind that Jar Jar Binks is basically the C-3PO of the prequels.
That is 100% correct.
Now, I would like to say that even though he looked pretty terrible, if you think about it, he kind of served the same purpose as C-3PO, as the comic relief who was always making stupid little comments and messing things up.
Yep, bumbling around.
I would just like everyone to keep in mind when you're criticizing Jar Jar. It's okay to criticize Jar Jar, but just remember, it's nothing new. All right, what do you got next, Daniel?
All right, my last one. Thou shalt never have the coolest armor without being the coolest character.
That is a wonderful point.
Example 1A and 1B here. Boba Fett and Captain Phasma.
Yes.
So thankfully, Captain Phasma might have the chance to keep this commandment, actually. We'll find out here in a couple days.
That's true. She's got some space.
But Boba Fett is an extreme offender of this commandment. So, like, I don't fully understand the popularity of Boba Fett. Like, he looks very cool. He has like this incredible armor. His mask is really menacing looking.
All he does is he tracks the Millennium Falcon and then dies in an incredibly stupid way.
Yep, it just blows it at every opportunity in Return of the Jedi. So he's terrible. He's the most overrated character in Star Wars. There's my other hot take. But that's the thing, right? Is that if you're going to have armor that looks cool, if you're going to be that greatly designed of a character, you have to be as cool as you look.
You got to do something with it. And it's funny because a lot of the people that hate on Force Awakens and hate on Captain Phasma love Boba Fett. So that's silly.
Very, very, very stupid. But I'm hoping that Phasma will come back strong in the Last Jedi.
I think this is her chance. Well, are you ready for the last of our 10 commandments of Star Wars?
Yes, please.
The last one is not really. It's more just like a personal pain that I feel. And I feel like it needs to round out our commandments. And that is, thou shalt never forget that Chewie did not get a medal at the end of New Hope.
It's so bad every time.
It hurts to look at.
Could not have done it without him. I mean, absolutely could not have done it without him.
Not at all.
There he stands with no medal. What do you think?
Nothing to show for it.
At the very end when he's like, what do you think he is saying in that moment?
I think he's saying, wake up, people. Space racism is real. Which roughly translates to.
So there's your 10 commandments of Star Wars, everyone. I hope that you can find a neat place to post them in front of your courthouses.
Recite them every day you wake up and before you go to bed.
Yes, absolutely. And don't forget to do your Gregorian chant when you talk about it.
Well, Daniel, I very much enjoyed our Star Wars talk for today. I'm feeling as revved up as ever for Last Jedi.
Yep. If only tomorrow didn't exist. Right now it's a Tuesday. If we could just wake up and it be Thursday.
Well, I don't know. I'm pretty tired, so I think I might be able to sleep that many hours.
That is true. If only we could also do that and just be like, well, sorry, Star Wars.
We hope all of you who are listening are equally as excited and hopefully have already seen the movie by then, and then we can talk all about it even more. But we thank you so much for joining us on this podcast of Star Wars and PSX. We hope that you will tell your friends about us.
Yes, please.
Tell them that you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, or soundcloud.com/Hubworld. They can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah, at Twitter, at HubWorldCast. And we have a Facebook page set up that is just Hubworld, I believe. So you could definitely check us out there. And I hate to be this guy. We don't have any advertising. We're not paying for any boosted posts or anything like that.
That's right.
Really, the only way that we can have other people know about this show is if you tell other people about this show. So if you follow us on Twitter or follow us on social media, and you like what we're doing, you're listening to us, and it's given you a nice hour-ish or so of material, and it made you laugh or made you smile, made you think, help us out and tell somebody about it and say, hey, you should check this out, and tell us where to go, or retweet our tweets and follow us, or quote tweet and say, hey, this is something you should definitely listen to because these beautiful boys are pretty cool, and hashtags and stuff.
I would specifically also say that if you have any suggestions for things you want us to talk about, new segments, maybe submissions for some of the games we play on the show, please let us know.
Yeah, we've already seen a lot of y'all that have responded from the last episode and say, hey, I have some ideas for change a letter and change a game name. So, we'll take those into consideration. So we want to interact with you. We want to engage with you. We want you all to have some creativity with this show as well. So again, just any kind of help that we can have with that. Leave us a review on Apple Podcast or Google Play, however that works. That really helps with visibility for other people can join. So that other people can join in this thing that we're all making together, I guess.
That's right. And when you hear from us next, we will be new men.
We will be the last Jedis, I think. I think that's what the title means.
But until that time, just remember, it's dangerous to go alone.
Take us.